Hey, everybody, welcome on back. It's the Rubbin is Racing podcast with Spider and Large, and this is brought to you by Body Armor Flash IV. Flash IV delivers faster, longer-lasting hydration with over 2,000 milligrams of electrolytes and no artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners like those other drinks. So whether you're training, traveling, or just feeling the heat, work hard. Spider, they don't even ask me to do this, but when we saw Ryan Blaney jump out of his car that one time where it's 130 degrees inside the car, he grabbed onto a Body Armor Flash IV like he was about to give. It was like the fountain of youth for that guy. We've used it when we're at the track. We're telling you to use it anytime you need to feel a little bit refreshed. You can hydrate hard with Body Armor Flash IV and grab yours today at your local 7-Eleven's convenience store. And also, this podcast is brought to you by Blue Chew. Guys, enter the room dick first. Blue Chew isn't just a tablet, it's a cheat code for your crotch. Stronger, harder, longer lasting, like someone gave your downstairs a pep talk and a gym membership. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. This ain't a supplement, it's an erection resurrection. It's not just about performance, this is about legacy, or maybe third legacy. Give her group chat something to talk about. You know, when you lay it down, they're talking about how it gets up, and nothing makes you more of a legend than a little Blue Chew. Discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. As always, get your first month of Blue Chew free. Just use promo code Rubbin at checkout and pay only $5 for shipping. That's it. Join Blue Chew's mission to upgrade humanity one thrust at a time. Head to bluechew.com for details and safety info. And big thanks to Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. All righty, boys, we are back. No Quiggs today. I believe Quiggs he's protesting outside the UN again. Where is he, Spider? Do you know?
I don't. I think, that sounds about right, though. That sounds like something he would do.
Yeah, we got Moonhead in the house. If it sounds like Spider is on location, he is. He's never where he... No, I should about to say he's never where he should be, but that's not true. Spider is a Rolling Stone. So right now you're in Philly working one of the Barstool Classics, I believe, or is this the Ryder's Cup? Where are you right now?
I'm in Philadelphia at Jefferson Golf Club for the Barstool Classic. So
how is it down in Philly? A lot of NASCAR fans there, Spider?
Not as much as I haven't really spoken to any. It's a little bit rainy, so it's nice to get inside and chat with you guys for a little bit.
I hear you. How you doing, Moon? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's great here.
Right. Okay. I have a high school senior, a young lady who's shadowing me today. What a great day to do a Blue Chew read, isn't it? When you have like a young girl in the thing with you, nothing could possibly be more embarrassing than mentioning how we could have a erection resurrection. No trucks last weekend. Last race was when Heim won in Darlington. Trucks are going this weekend, but they're going off on Thursday night. Since this podcast drops on Friday, I have nothing to say about that. Actually, Bristol is a packed schedule. There's ARCA races. I think there's 2 ARCA races on Thursday. Oh, no, 1, but they're combining the 2 ARCA series, then trucks, then Xfinity on Friday, then the Bristol night race on Saturday. And then I think there's an ARCA West race that goes off at like 11 p.m. on Saturday too, Eastern time. So there's a ton of racing to watch on top of a bunch of other stuff that's going on this weekend. But last weekend, Xfinity, Connor Zilich scores his 4th straight victory and wins the Xfinity Series regular season championship on a track he's never driven on, and then he tears open his fire suit. Connor Zilich is turning into one of the most talented goofballs I've ever seen. Is that fair to say, with just the way this kid always adds in personal injury or a little ripped fire suit here and there? The kid really has become a superstar, but he's got like a goofball type way about him that I think is even more attractive than if he was just a hot driver. How do you guys feel about that?
I love it. I mean, I think it's spot on every time he wins, which seems to be every week now. That just gets better and better, but I still remain kind of holding my breath to see what's going to happen. It seemed like this week he narrowly avoided a cameraman. I don't know what the hell that guy was doing on the track.
That every time there's something kind of interesting, right?
Yeah. But no, I love it. I love seeing him win. And, hopefully it's good things that start happening after his wins. Nothing to be concerned about, more celebratory stuff.
I had seen him on another interview. Obviously, he gets interviewed all over the place. And one of the women who was interviewing him, I don't think it was Danielle, it was somebody else. And she said how well-spoken he was. I guess both his parents are teachers. So when he was around the house, it was always like correcting his grammar and all that stuff. This kid is ready to be in front of a microphone. He's ready to be behind the wheel of a car. He's just not ready to fucking celebrate. What would you think would be the perfect thing for Connor Zilich to do when he wins probably this week, Moonhead, and has to get out of his car and do something? What would be the ideal thing for Moonhead and Connor Zilich?
Oh, man.
That's a tough one. I mean, I just kind of spring that on you.
Well, obviously he's kind of ruined it for himself because he can't do the traditional thing anymore without being worried about injuring himself. So now I think we're just in the awkward stage of him trying to figure it out. Like SVG kicks the rugby ball. Chastain throws the watermelon. I think he's just looking for his thing. And so far, I guess it's just been near tragedies. With almost running over a camera guy and then ripping his pants and falling on his head. So luckily, I think he's going to keep winning races. So he'll figure it out eventually.
Spider,
I have an idea.
Go.
Yeah, I have an idea. If you watch the, you watch like I forget I don't even know what it's called. What's the Trackhouse racing where they're in with motorcycles? Whatever that series is called, they have like those inflatable vests. As soon as the bike detects that you're separated, it will inflate your whole body. Like, I think he should borrow one of those. I'm sure Trackhouse has one. And then after he wins, just fucking deploy the inflatable suit. I think that would be awesome.
I think when we go to the track, sometimes we go by where they keep all the tires. I know we've done this multiple times. I put you on that dolly, and I've wheeled Spider around. He jumps out of the car, pit crew comes out, puts him on the dolly, wraps him in bubble wrap, and then takes him back to the fucking hauler. The kid needs to be protected however we decide he should celebrate. And congratulations on yet another win. He is a legitimate superstar in the making. I feel like this has to be what people must have felt like when they saw like a young Jeff Gordon, right? Or maybe even a young Kyle. Who's the comp historically with your limited, you're not an older guy is what I'm saying, Moonhead. But is there anybody who's come up through the ranks like this who's had that kind of buzz, or does everybody kind of have it?
Yeah, I mean, it off the top of my head, I don't know. The Zilich thing, what's crazy about him, I guess this really ain't even the right answer, but like,
go ahead, I don't give a shit.
The thing that like sticks out with me right now is I didn't even realize statistically like what he's doing to win. What is he on now? 8 in a row? 9 in a row?
Yeah, he's got not 9 in a row, but he's got 9 wins. Yeah,
9, but in like 7 or 8 of the last however many,
right?
He's won, even the one he didn't finish with Kligerman winning. So like, I don't know. That's just, to me, that's just an insane stat that I feel like has kind of been overshadowed with all the other crazy stuff that's gone on with him.
Yeah, and he's not done. Like I haven't looked up the record. I think it might have been Kyle Busch that has a record for Xfinity, or maybe Chris Bell was, I think, the active driver with the most single season Xfinity wins, perhaps. But he's going through that like a box of light bulbs and with nothing but momentum going into the playoffs. We're lucky enough to be sitting now with Chase Briscoe in just a little bit. And Chase Briscoe is arguably one of the drivers with the most momentum going into the playoffs, right? I think like Bubba Wallace has got a really good buzz about him. Joey kind of pulled himself out of, below the cut line. But Chase Briscoe's got all the momentum in the world. And then Connor Zilich, I think, matches that and trumps it exponentially what this kid got going into the playoffs. The playoffs are set for the 12-driver Xfinity playoffs. Connor won himself in with 9 wins. Little Gator, Justin Allgaier, has got 3. Austin Hill's got 3. Mayer 1, Love 1, Jones 1. Smith and Sanchez all have 1 win. And then Carson Kvapil, Creed Gray, and Harrison Burton all had pointed their way in. And I don't think enough credit is being given to it, but Harrison Burton went to a team that wasn't very good, and he made them a playoff team. So for a bad story, a kid who had a fluke win and made it into the playoffs in the Cup Series, then got demoted to the Xfinity Series, I think Harrison Burton has been able to make a little bit of lemonade going into these playoffs, and I'm very happy for him because he's a nice fucking kid on top of everything else, and he's a pretty good wheelman. So I can't say how much I'm proud of Harrison Burton, and I also can't say how sick of a bastard Jeb Burton is. Did anyone see him in the Xfinity race when his tire was on fire? It seemed like he went a whole, like the half of the track absolutely on flames, to where I was like, at what point did they stop him and bring out the fire extinguishers? Did anyone happen to catch that, Jeb Burton?
Yeah.
I did, yeah. I mean, that was kind of scary, but just a reminder that like stuff like this can happen during the race. I think his team owner, Jordan Anderson, was like, he was in the car when it got caught on fire. So it's always extremely scary when something like that happens. But I'm glad Jeb's okay. Shout out Dive Bomb.
Oh, that's right. He's a dive bomb guy too. On top of it all,
That's right.
yeah, Jeb's the guy, and dive bombs are guys. So I had seen a tweet from a guy named Nick Yeoman. I don't know how it. I've never seen the guy before, so I don't know if he's got a history. Connor Zilich deserves to start like 5 laps ahead of everyone at Phoenix in the Xfinity finale. If God forbid somebody does beat him in that final race, NASCAR Twitter will implode. And for people who hate this playoff system, Connor Zilich is the perfect storm for people to burn this fucking place to the ground. Justin Allgaier is very good at Phoenix. He's good on flatter tracks and whatnot. So there is a good shot that Justin Allgaier makes it to the championship 4 and then wins that race in Phoenix. And Connor Zilich, who's probably going to have 10 or 11 wins by then, will be shut out. This place will be burnt to the fucking ground. You guys agree with that?
I almost disagree. I want to start him five laps back and watch him cut through the field and still win and cement his status as the GOAT prospect and deserving of all the hype that people have been giving him. I think he's had an incredible year. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. I mean, it seems like from the truck's perspective as well as Xfinity, there's one clear guy that's expected to win, whether it be Zilich in Xfinity or Corey Heim in the truck series, which, it seems like it's a little bit locked up, which will make playoffs almost better to watch. Like, does anyone have anything for these guys? So, but yeah, as a guy who had futures on Zilich, I'm loving it. My truck futures front row, I think they're going to have an uphill battle versus Corey Heim, but Zilich has been unbelievable. It's incredible that he came back this quick and is already back to winning.
We might as well
I shouldn't even say back because he never stopped winning, but.
Yeah, no, he's a juggernaut. We might as well talk about it now because Jordan Bianchi had dropped on Door Bumper Clear how it seems like we're going to have a different playoff system maybe as soon as next season. We're never going back to that full season chase format, but it seems like it's going to be tweaked. I don't know why Jordan would drop that on DBC when he has the teardown, which, records right after the race every week. So I'm assuming that he's getting out ahead of some sort of NASCAR leak or NASCAR announcement. Moonhead, you had pointed it out to me last night. I had seen it kind of on the periphery. Is what Jordan Bianchi leaking or assuming what's going to happen, is that going to solve some of the problems? Because I cannot turn on any type of NASCAR thing. People just totally stopped complaining about the car. That's the only positive thing about it. And they're just complaining about the playoff system. Is this a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, or is this like a real fix for the NASCAR playoff system? He wants to do what? A couple of rounds and then 4 races, I think, or 3 for the final round, maybe?
It was, some variation of 2 rounds of 3 and a round of 4. I saw this morning as well that on the Holler Talk podcast, they pretty much confirmed there's going to be some sort of tweak to the playoff format. I think it'd be a step in the right direction. I don't think it's going to be perfect. I don't ever see them going back to the year-long format like everybody's screaming for, but I would love to see, the full 10 races just play out as they play out. But definitely, I think having a round of 4 to crown the champion would be a way bigger step in the right direction than just sticking with the 1 race format or even a couple of races, because 4 races, that's going to give everybody a chance to see some variety in a racetrack. You're going to have swings in the points, and I feel like you'd have a more deserving champion than if you just do the 1 race thing. But I don't know. It's not where I'd like to see it end, but I don't, as NASCAR fans, people are going to complain about everything we've seen throughout the years. So I think that we do need to give credit where credit's due and acknowledge that at least NASCAR is trying to find some sort of compromise, because I don't think it's all NASCAR. It sounds like TV really wants the playoff moments and the cutoffs and stuff like that, which is understandable, I guess, from their perspective, because they don't really know racing as well as the people who are in racing and understand the appeal of maybe a longer points format over in racing. And I don't not to rant about this like everybody
I
else,
asked.
but I really, the playoff thing, I feel like the experiment is over. Like, I think everything from ratings to fans to drivers, it's not working. Like, it's not creating the excitement that I think they wanted it to manufacture. And I understand the want to maybe have a playoff format and get those exciting moments that you see in other sports and bring them into motorsports. But we're also doing that in the middle of football season. Like, I think if people want to see other sports, they're just going to watch other sports. So I think, hopefully NASCAR is starting to see that, and maybe TV, they'll be able to sell TV on something that's a little bit more appealing to the everyday race fan. But I do think that the extending the final round to 4 races would be a step in the right direction.
And so me and Spider understand this correctly. There would be 2 rounds sort of similar to elimination rounds that we have now, but instead of the whole thing being decided at either Miami next year or Phoenix this year, we would tweak it to have 4 races, and the best out of that 4 would be then crowned a champion, just so we'd have a bigger skill set challenge. Correct? That's how they're going to do it?
That's what I get. I mean, that's what it seemed like was insinuated. Obviously, none of this was reported as fact, but it Bianchi, we know he's the one who put out the schedule before the schedule comes out. He usually is a pretty good source, even if he is kind of a playoff defender, it seems, and he's been catching some heat for that.
Yeah.
It seems like he knows something that everybody else doesn't. And I think the Holler Talk podcast, the NASCAR podcast or whatever, this morning I saw, once again, just on Twitter, I haven't listened to it, so if I get something wrong, don't come after me. But it seemed like, from what I gathered on Twitter, that they all but confirmed tweaks coming next year on that as well. So those 2 things going together, it seems likely that some variation of that format is at least being talked about.
What do you think, Spider? Is that enough, or is it the Band-Aid on bullet wound like I had mentioned before? Because I like when NASCAR listens to the fans somewhat, right? I mean, that is a tweak, at least towards what the fans want, without just being like, all right, what exactly do you want to go back to the chase? Boom, we're going back to the chase. What do you want? More horsepower? Boom. Softer tires? Boom. They don't do that. So this seems like they're listening to the crowd a little bit.
For sure. I'm not sure what Moonhead said about like, to me it's just a matter of, this gives it an opportunity to be more of a bigger look at your work. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Like a bigger sample size for the body of work. If you did 4 races to determine a champion, you could have it at 4 different style tracks, which would test everyone, which I think would be good. I know we've spoken at length about Joey Logano and the legitimacy of his championship last year, which I'm not going to get into again. I know everyone has certain opinions on that, but I think this change would prevent any kind of discussions like that. I also don't want to sound like Jordan Bianchi and just defend NASCAR to the lengths of it, but I do think that this would be a welcome addition from my perspective, at least.
I don't know any different, so I'll take it from that perspective. And I've had a pretty good experience so far. So not being able to have that historical perspective where I want to go back to the glory days, which, by the way, are never coming back, I didn't know exactly what needed to be fixed. So I am curious to see how this works out, because as I alluded to before, if Connor Zilich loses in Phoenix, the same way that people say that Joey's championship is a Mickey Mouse championship, Justin Allgaier, whoever else wins in Phoenix, will be absolutely called a paper champion, because they happen to have won a championship on a year where this young buck went in and won, I don't know, a fucking dozen races. So they needed to do something. I think this might be a pretty good start. And to Moonhead's point, ratings haven't been that good since football started. Ratings again down year over year for last week's race. Xfinity managed to pull over 1 million viewers again, even though they're right in the middle of college football Saturday. So Xfinity is gaining ground on the Cup, and the Cup is just losing ground here during the playoffs. At least they seem to have a gangbuster beginning of the season. So something needs to be done, and I'm just glad that NASCAR is doing something. I kind of tip my hat to them, and I'm dying to see how this fucking stuff works out. Let's recap Gateway a little bit. Denny Hamlin wins. How do you feel about him jumping out of the car and saying you can either get on this train or get run over by it? I mean, compared to I just beat your favorite driver. Denny's always looking for these little taglines. How'd you feel about that one, Spider?
I kind of liked it. I mean, I think it's I don't know. I do think that though there's every year there's like one moment where they're like, "Hey, Denny, this is your year, right?" And they put him on the spot, and he either has to like be like, "Oh, I'm not sure yet. It's still too early to tell," or just lean into it. And I feel like obviously every time it's not worked out so far. So I'm a little bit concerned that he might have like, you know, jinxed himself. But at the same time, I think he's been running so well. You have to tip your cap. Seems like he's put it all together down the stretch here, which is all you can want for a guy who's desperately chasing the championship trophy. So
it seems like I listen to actions this weekend. I like to listen to actions, particularly after Denny has a win. And I did like the get on board or get run over. And I also like the idea, because Denny had said print the shirts. And one of the guys, and I don't know which one of his co-hosts had said it, but said maybe we should print the shirts that have a train and it says all aboard, with the all part being 11. You know what I mean? Sort of like what he does with that. I think I'd buy that. Like, I would buy that shirt, first of all. But secondly, Denny is now saying, I just want wins. I'm just concentrating on wins. I'm going to ask you, Moon, why the fuck doesn't Denny just say, this is my year? This is what I'm going after. This is my white whale. Kind of say what everyone knows is the truth. It has to burn him that he's Dan Marino, Charles Barkley, whatever you want to say. A generational Hall of Famer, all-time great who does well in front of a microphone, behind the wheel, all that shit. I'm a Denny simp, right? But he doesn't have a fucking championship. And he has the most wins in Cup this year, and he has momentum going into the second round. Why doesn't he talk that shit like he does with everything else and say, you know what? I'm going to fucking win it in Phoenix. Everybody get out of my way. You know, what's the reason he doesn't embrace that?
Well, I mean, he's had a lot of stuff go wrong in the playoffs in the last 15 years. I mean, even before the elimination 16-man style stuff, he's lost championships in a lot of ways. And I feel like he either doesn't want to jinx it, or he's been such a vocal critic of the format and how stupid stuff can take you out of it. And just one bad pit stop at Phoenix could cost you a championship. I feel like he doesn't want to even touch it. I don't think he wants to say anything, because he knows very well that he could win all night. Well, Briscoe won Darlington, but he could win the rest of the playoff races until we get to Phoenix, and then go out there and have a bad pit stop and not win the championship. So I feel like that's in the back of his mind, and he don't want to jinx it. I wouldn't blame him either, because he's talked shit a lot throughout the years, and like you said, it's never worked out. So maybe this is just his new approach.
I think both of you guys are right. Like, obviously he's going to try to not say anything, but at the same time, I think this is as clear as like, cocky endorsement of like saying, this is my year. Like you're saying, Large, lean into it. This is the closest thing that he's going to do to lean into it, in my opinion, is be like, get on with me or get out of my way, because I'm coming. So he didn't come out right and be like, yeah, this is my year. I plan to win the championship. But I think this was the closest we'll see to that. And I also think, yeah, there's something to be said about not wanting to jinx yourself. I feel like every time they have him on the show, pre-race panel, they ask him, hey, is this your year? Clint Boyer will ask him. And like when you put him on the spot like that, of course, everyone's concerned it's going to go the other way, as it has in the past.
I love him when he talks shit. Like, I love when he says, yeah, I can win this weekend.
Yeah, but
and I know it's that
not talking shit.
Under promise, over deliver type thing. So say get on the train, and then his co-host had put his feet to the fire. The train to the championship? No, just the train to more wins. Fuck that, man. Let's not looking at our final four predictions. Who do you think has the most momentum going into Phoenix right now? And I know it's very, very early, but that's all we can talk about. Isn't Denny the fucking guy right now?
Yeah, I would say it's Denny or it's Briscoe. Honestly, the way they've been running, those guys have been at the top of their game recently. So those would be the cars that I'd think have most momentum.
Going from Denny to somebody else who is known as the best driver in the world, Kyle Larson just ran out of fucking talent and sent Blaney. I felt so bad for Blaney. I say run out of talent. I'm being sarcastic, but I like to shit on Larson every now and again. Lost his fucking mind. And while fighting for P5 near the end of stage 2, he just absolutely just sends Blaney. And Blaney went over to him afterwards and said, "What the fuck was that?" Larson said that I made a mistake. The whole deal makes me want to ask you guys, is Blaney just the most unlucky driver? And it's tough to say that when Josh Berry can't make it past 3 fucking laps, lately. But is Blaney the most unlucky driver? Because he's very, very clean. I think Blaney is a clean driver, unless somebody's going to, challenge me on that. But it just seems like he's on the receiving end of shit like this more so than others. He's not unlucky in other places. He's got a rocket ship for a wife. He's got a championship under his belt. He's got all that kind of stuff. Probably has a 12-inch cock. I don't know. But it just seems like when it comes to situations like this, Blaney's luck runs out a little bit. And it happens with people like fucking Larson. He has 7 DNFs this season. It's a lot of DNFs for a guy that's probably going to make it close to, if not the Final Four, or win a championship. Does Ryan put himself in these situations, or is he a victim of circumstance?
No, I think this year particularly, he's been the unluckiest driver. But that's exclusively for this year. As you mentioned, the DNFs, and he's been running well and just been taken out of races that he could theoretically have won. So, yeah, I think he has probably been the most unlucky this season. In the grand scheme of things, I think guys like Denny have probably been unlucky in their career. And that's not to say, they haven't had their fair share of winning, but I do think a certain extent of luck is required to win a championship. Not to discredit those that have done it, but you need it to break in your favor. And I think, sometimes it just hasn't gone his way. So I don't know. I think Blaney's certainly been unlucky this year, but knowing how these guys turn it on late in the year by evidence of Joey Logano last year, who's to say he doesn't just flip a switch and, run the field.
What do you think of Blaney this season, Moon?
Definitely unlucky, but the fact that he's done as well as he's done, I mean, he's still, 5th in the standings right now. I think that shows how strong that team is running and how well they overcome adversity at times. I feel like, a guy like Josh Berry's luck has been really bad, especially since the playoff starts, because he doesn't even have a chance really after he's, had his issues, because he's been wiped out early both weeks. Whereas Blaney has at least, at Gateway was able to rally back and have a decent run when it was all said and done. So yes, very unlucky. But I agree with Spider. Like, all it's going to take is better luck, and they're going to be a threat to win a bunch of races and could go on a hell of a run.
Yeah, and to your point, how mad could he be at Larson when he gets a top 10 finish and Larson finishes outside? Yeah. And the reason I know Larson finished outside is because I had that 3-driver parlay with HMS all finish in the top 10, and I missed it by that fucking much. All right, so
I feel like,
go ahead.
Like Larson is good for something like this, like once every 4 or 5 weeks, I feel like, which is kind of hard to believe. But yeah, you got to remind yourself that stuff like this kind of happens a decent amount.
I watched that a bunch. I watched the replay on that a bunch. And all I could think about was if Carson Hocevar did that same thing to Ryan Blaney, if the 77 did what the 5 did, I mean, they would have the pitchforks and the fucking torches out, on pit row to kill that kid. But I guess if you're Kyle Larson, you get a little bit of a break,
For sure.
Yeah. I guess Kyle Larson is just better than Carson Hocevar, at least right now. Cup Series playoff standings after St. Louis. So Denny, Chase, obviously, then Larson, Bubba, Ryan, Byron, Reddick, Bell, Elliott. And then once we get past the top 10, which is Joey Logano, you have Ross Chastain in the 11 seed, Austin Cindric, who's 11 points to the good as the 12 seed. Then outside of the top 12, you have Austin Dillon, who's only 11 points to the bad, Shane Van Gisbergen, who's 15 points away, Alex Bowman, who's in a must-win at minus 35, and then Josh Berry, who's in a must-win at minus 45. Are you guys ready to throw the dirt on those 4 guys, or do you think anybody there has the opportunity to even point their way in, like Austin Dillon catching up to Austin Cindric, or win their way in, specifically Alex Bowman and Josh Berry? Because it seems like Shane is fucking doomed.
Yeah, I was going to say Shane would be the first guy I'd say is doomed. Bristol upcoming, not necessarily the kind of track that he's proficient at. So, yeah, I would be most concerned about him. There is some good talent in the outside of the top 12. I mean, Austin Dillon's turned some heads this year. He would probably be my next guy out after SVG. But Bowman and Berry, I think, are very good, and their teams have been very encouraging too, despite what we might have saw from Hendrick past weekend. So, I think Shane and Austin Dillon are the guys I'd be most concerned about. Maybe Cindric and Chastain I would put in there as well. But, that's where I'm at.
What do you think? If anyone's going to win their way in this weekend, do you think there's somebody below the top 12 that's going to do it? Moonhead?
Barry is my first pick just because he's been running good. He hasn't ran long in either race, but he was running decent at Gateway and obviously qualified really well at Darlington. Short track guy. The Penske affiliation. Penske's pretty good at Bristol historically. I really like him. I think Shane's doomed. This was a tough round for him, really looking at it. I don't think that was talked about enough, but we went to 3 or are going to a third very tough track, especially for somebody like him. So I'd say he's doomed going into Bristol. I don't see him winning Bristol, but he's only 15 back. So theoretically he could have a half decent night, and one of these guys right above the cut line could have a terrible night right out of the gate, and he could have a fighting chance. But as far as a walk-off goes, I think Barry really out of those 4 is the only one who's got a shot.
Bowman started on the pole in Bristol last time. I think so. Bowman, and he did swap out. It's one of the headlines. They're swapping out a couple of guys on his pit crew. HMS is swapping out some members of his pit crew, including they're adding Rod Cox as his rear changer and Jarius Moorhead. Wow, 2 great porn names. Jarius Moorhead and Rod Cox stepping in. Sounds a little bit fucking. Either way. So Bowman's got some help on his pit crew. He typically at least qualifies well here. So I think they're both a threat. If you guys don't mind me adding my 2 cents, I'm upset that Shane is going to get booted here. I think that having Shane Van Gisbergen be dangerous in that second round and really fucking shaking this thing up. And you know how I have that narrative that I hate that son of a bitch. But still, I think that Shane being in that second round would be really good for NASCAR. But I also think a guy like Josh Berry winning his way into the next round, man, it's tough when we go to pick the tires in just a little bit to not throw a couple of bucks on him just to be part of the fucking story, to be honest with you. So I don't mean to leak it out, but I think I'm going to be betting Josh Berry and Alex Bowman this weekend. I want to be part of that magic. And I also have to check before Briscoe comes on where his future is to win the championship. Because I jumped on him back in July. I think I got like plus 4,000. So to think about where he is now, I got to think that's been at least cut in half. So a lot of interesting things going into betting this weekend. We'll talk about all that stuff in a minute. But for right now, we're about to go 3 wide with Chase Briscoe, and that is brought to you by our good friends at Dive Bomb. Spider and I were lucky enough to go to, where were we? We're Missouri, right?
St. Louis, yeah.
Yeah. We did some duck hunting with these guys from Dive Bomb, and I'm telling you right now, freezing cold water, 2 guys who had never been involved with hunting before. We were comfortable. We were stylish. We were probably the belle of the ball, probably 2 of the best looking guys that was ever seen out in a duck blind. Spider had bagged the first duck, and we all bagged our limit. It was a great time all the way around, and part of the reason it was a great time is because we were geared up by Dive Bomb. Dive Bomb Industries gear is designed to perform in the toughest conditions. They make their products for the outdoorsman, the hunter, and the sportsman. They even have golf polos and everyday wear that I wear all the time. They are fat guy friendly, just so you guys know. I'm big and tough to fit. Spider is more of a guy who can wear anything, and we both look great in this stuff. So if you're a hunter, if you're a fisherman, or if you're a guy that just needs a really cool golf shirt, go to Dive Bomb. Check us out at divebombindustries.com and use code Rubbin15 at checkout and get yourself looking as good as Spider and I were looking when we were blasting ducks out of the sky. And with that, Let's talk to Chase Briscoe. All right, so as promised, we have Chase Briscoe. I'm trying to decide who's got the most momentum going into these goddamn second round of the playoffs. It's got to be this guy. And you want to know why? On July 11th, I took a future for Chase Briscoe to win the Cup Series championship, and I got plus 4,000 on it. July 11th. You check it today, it's plus 800. Vegas is behind him. Rubbin is racing is behind him. I think America is fucking behind this guy. It's Chase Briscoe, driver of the 19. Welcome back to Rubbin is Racing. How you doing, my brother?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, you got some good odds back in July.
Damn right I did. You better don't let me down, you son of a bitch. What's going on with you?
I'll try my best.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Chase.
I didn't realize they moved that much.
Yeah, I guess when you win races, it just helps a hell of a lot. So it's nice for you. We were talking the other day about you, and then today we were talking about Harrison Burton, and now Harrison Burton has been doing so well with his team in the Xfinity series, making it into the playoffs, a team that traditionally doesn't do it. So that's got to be very, very, I don't know, a good feeling all around because he's technically a new hire. But the greatest new hire of the year is Joe Gibbs Racing picking you up. What's your report card for where you are right now? I know that locked into the round of 12 and stuff, and you say, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I wouldn't think that I'd be in this position. But knowing that you're coming in, having to replace a legend, being in good equipment, the whole thing that was going on, when you were expecting to have a 2025 season, what's your grade on how you're doing so far?
Well, I would say if I had to do the full season, I would say it's probably a B plus. But if I could just say take the last 2 months, I would say it's an A minus. Just the first 10 weeks for us was kind of really up till the Coke 600. I felt like we were just learning a lot. I mean, we're still learning a lot. We're only 28 races into this relationship, so I don't know. I definitely feel like in some ways we've probably been quicker, like for a longer period of time than we expected, just with how new it all is. But at the same time, like I feel like we all think it's very possible that we win the championship in our first year. Like we have the speed and all those things. And I don't know. I in some ways I would say it's kind of overachieved my expectations in some ways, and in other ways I feel like the goalposts just keep moving because of how fast we've been able to be. And I don't know, it's definitely been an odd season. I've just never really been in my career in a situation where I'm learning so much, especially 5 years into my Cup career. Like I've learned more, I feel like, this year than I have in any other year, and it's definitely been just an interesting season from that standpoint.
Chase, you mentioned your team as the championship in their focus, and obviously you guys are going for that. What is the ceiling for this team? What needs to get better in order for you guys to get the championship? Is there anything you need to work on, or do you feel like you're capable of getting it done as you run now?
Oh, I think from a speed standpoint, we're certainly, right there. I would argue that, from just a raw speed standpoint, we might be even the best car. Just it comes down to execution, for us. And, when we execute, Darlington's a great example of what can happen. And when we don't execute, last weekend's a great example. We were just up and down all day long, definitely had a car capable of winning. And, we were fortunate to end up finishing second, but, it could have been way worse. We were, I think, 34th with 80 laps to go. And, kind of got lucky on some of the strategy and stuff. So I don't know. For us, that's, I would say our biggest Achilles heel is just trying to make sure that we execute and capitalize on the speed that we kind of have every single week. And, it takes everything, right? I got to be on it from behind the wheel. The picker's got to be on it. Things have to fall your way to a certain extent. Strategy has to be on it. And when we execute, I feel like, we're more than capable of going out and winning races. It's just a matter of putting all those things together. And, nobody does it week in and week out, but the guys that do it more and more consistently are the guys that are going to be battling for the championship. So hopefully we can be one of those teams.
Toyota has been doing pretty well in this playoffs so far, and that probably doesn't need to be said. But Chris Bell seems to be having some ups and downs. He had cursed on the radio, something you typically don't hear Chris Bell doing. He actually didn't sound that tough when he did it. I don't recommend him cursing on the radio anymore, be quite honest. You have such a history with Chris, right? Chris, from being somebody who was out in the grandstand with, what, you working like social for him for a while?
Yeah, dude, I was PR, yeah.
Yeah, you PR for the guy, and now you're a teammate. And he says afterwards, like, part of his frustration is, I work with a bunch of wheelmen, like you and Denny and all those guys, and we have this great equipment, and I'm not performing up to that standard. So you've gone from being a PR guy in the crowd, wearing the cans, listening to Chris Bell, to now being the measuring stick for what the performance should be for that team. How's that feel to you? And then how's your relationship changed with Chris? Because I think it's interesting. You went from being a guy who's grabbing his coffee to a guy who's sitting next to him in a team meeting.
It's definitely, wild just to know that. I mean, me and Christopher have known each other since I want to say we were 11 or 12 years old, and have lived together for parts of our life. And yeah, it's crazy. I think it really hit us. We were flying to Mexico on Coach's plane, and we were just talking, and we were talking about old times and stuff. I'm like, man, if you would have told us 10 years ago that we were going to be flying on Joe Gibbs's airplane to go race in Mexico in the Cup Series, like, we would have both thought you were crazy. So it's been definitely wild, just how it's all worked out. And I think, Christopher, I obviously I can't speak for him, but I feel like he's really enjoyed just having somebody that, is always in his corner. And even for myself, after every good run, Christopher's one of the first people to come over to me, or, even he just texted me and James, my crew chief, this weekend as soon as the race was over. I'm like, man, I'm so happy you guys are running so good. So, Christopher was a huge part of the reason I felt like I got a foot in the door over here. He was always kind of in my corner and vouching for me. So, yeah, it's crazy how, I went from being a competitor to his to now being a teammate. But, yeah, I think, I was just talking about how it takes everything, right? You have to have the execution, things have to fall your way. And, Christopher's kind of that perfect example of things just not going your way, whether it's, a caution falling at the wrong time or whatever. I would say from a speed standpoint, they're easily just as good as what we've been. They just haven't had the lucky breaks. Last weekend's a great example, just how the strategy played out. We were, like I said, 34th with 80 to go, right? He was, I think, running 7th with 80 to go, and just how the strategy kind of played itself out. It allowed us to be in the mix, and I think he ended up 7th or 8th. So there's so many variables that go into these races, and, for them, they've had the speed, and that's half the battle all the time is having speed. And, the 20 cars certainly had it. They just haven't had all the other variables to go with it.
Chase, you mentioned that the transition to Joe Gibbs has been kind of the hardest part of the challenges thrown at you this year. Do you think that's something that will continue to kind of be a struggle, or how do you feel in terms of the comfort level you have calling Joe Gibbs Racing home every week now?
It feels like home now. I mean, the hardest part, obviously the cars and everything drive different, but truthfully, it was just the demeanor, like of going to the racetrack, expecting to win and knowing that you're a contender. And, that's probably been a big switch for me, I would say, in the last even 8 or so weeks. Like, just with how consistently we've been running up front, it goes from, man, like, this is pretty cool, we're up front, to now, like, you go to the racetrack expecting to run up front. And that's something at SHR, like, there was going to be 5-6 weekends a year where I was up front, but I wasn't consistently up front. So just that mindset, just that demeanor of going to the racetrack and, even the playoffs, right? At SHR, yeah, we had a shot to win the championship, but the odds of us actually doing it were slim to none. Like, it would have to take everything being absolutely perfect. Where now, I feel like I'm a legitimate contender to win a Cup Series championship. So just the mindset and the demeanor from a competitor standpoint has been way different. But I feel like I was saying, like, over the course of the last 8 or 9 weeks, I've really kind of had that switch in my mind to even kind of go off and kind of go to where this is now the new normal. And, just that competitive edge, it's kind of ratcheted up, where before you're just kind of happy to be there and you're truthfully part of the field. And now you're a serious, contender in the field. And, that's a fun thing to be a part of.
Chase, you know that Spider and I are idiots, right? So we had just seen a graphic before you came on here that was talking about the average race length in the whole racing series. They put up one picture from each racing series. Your picture happens to be the one up for the Cup Series, by the way. It's Chase Briscoe up there with the one. It says here that average race length this year in a racing series: IndyCar, 1 hour and 44 minutes, Formula One, 1 hour and 32, Formula E, 49, MotoGP, 41 minutes, NASCAR, 3 hours and 14 minutes. As like casual fans, guys that have been in the sport for less than 10 years, not lifers, versus a guy like you who's been, involved with racing since you jumped out of the womb, are you kind of on our side to shorten these races a little bit, or does that screw with the integrity of the sport? I think Spider, you had said it while we were off camera. There's also something to be said about doing these marathons just to show how these guys can survive for such a long time at such a high level. Would you like to see these things shortened, or is it something that you're like, no, that's NASCAR. Don't fuck with that, Large?
I don't know. I could go either way.
See, he wants shorter races,
No,
Spider. He wants shorter races.
No,
the
there's
only
something to be
problem
said
I feel
about like
with the shorter races is like you would never have guys coming through the field. Like it takes, especially like just in cup racing, it is so like tight. The field is so tight that it takes 400 miles sometimes for like a guy to be
Right.
able to work his way through the field. Where in Xfinity or the Truck Series, you see it all the time. Like a guy gets a penalty, one of the fast guys, they go to the back, they're right back in the top 15 and 20 laps because the field is not that deep. Where in the Cup Series, I mean, from first to 20th is all normally within a couple tenths of a second. So you're not going to just go to the back of the pack and drive right back through there. So it takes almost 400 miles sometimes for these races to kind of play out. Now, could some of them be shorter? Yeah, probably. But like, I always want at least a Coke 600. I want the Southern 500. And maybe you can shorten some of the other races, but I do think that is kind of what cup racing is like when you go through the levels, the truck race is 125 miles, an Xfinity race is 250 miles. Then you get to the cup car and now you have to put it together for 400 miles. It's a huge step up from inside the seat just to be that good for that period of time. So yeah, I don't know. I could go either way. Truthfully, would I mind some races being shorter? No, I wouldn't at all. But I want to keep some of them longer too.
Can I follow up then with a quick question? Let's say hypothetically you're a guy who has newborn twins or something like that. Would you want to see a couple more? Would you or maybe somebody who's married to you like to see a couple more weeks off then during the season? I know you're getting two next season. This season you didn't. You had the Olympic break last season, which I think was an absolute blessing. How do you feel about that? Maybe a couple of weeks off for the Briscoe family.
Yeah, hypothetically speaking, if I had a wife and 3 kids at home, I would definitely be all about more off weeks. Yeah, I mean,
including newborn twins.
Yeah, the Olympic break thing was awesome. Just having 2 weeks in a row off because it really allowed you to that's the hard part with the 1 week off is, you only get one all year long. So you kind of want to just stay home because it's nice to just be home for once. But then you also are like, man, this is our one opportunity to go somewhere if we're going to go somewhere. So you go. Well, then you don't get any time at home. So that Olympic break was awesome because you could go somewhere. Then you got to come home and you got to spend like a couple days at home too. So, yeah, the Olympic break was great. Next year we do have an additional off weekend, which will be nice. I mean, it's a grind. I mean, obviously for the drivers, it's a grind, but not even near to the extent of, the crew guys and, all the people that kind of make this thing go up and down the road. So, yeah, I think, having another additional off weekend is going to be great for us. And, yeah, going back to your question about race links, though, yeah, like Pocono race, we can shorten that one. A couple other ones, like definitely would not hurt my feelings if we cut them in half or something.
I hear you.
The last thing I got for you, Chase, and I know you're talking about next season, there's rumors going around that the championship might be a 4-race championship. What's your take on that? And would you like to see it be each of the style tracks you race at, or do you have 4 tracks in mind that you would ideally like to see round out the deciding championship races?
I'm torn on that too, truthfully. I like the 1 race thing from the drama, like just the drama standpoint of it. And you have that like legit game 7 feeling of you have to go perform. The hard part is, at least in our sport, is like you can just miss it that one weekend just by a little bit. And, you don't win the championship where, if it is a 3 or 4 race thing, I think it just makes it a little not harder to win, but you just have to be a little more consistent and you have to elevate your game for 4 weeks in a row. You're already elevating it for the playoffs, but just being in a championship round, I do think that would probably be better because when it's 1 race, I mean, 1 race team or 1 organization or 1 driver can have like such an advantage of just that style of racetrack that, it does probably get a little skewed at times. Where if you had 4 races, whether it's, 1 at every style of racetrack where you run or, just 4 random tracks, I don't know. I do think it would be probably better. And I think all the drivers probably want that too. Just, it's great if your stuff's really good at Phoenix or, next year at Homestead, but it definitely makes it where it feels not more significant, but just, I don't know, I don't know what the word would be. It just feels different when you can put it together for 4 weeks instead of just one. That's always been the hard thing for me with the one race thing is, it'll never happen, but realistically you could win the first 35 races of the year and go blow up on lap one and you would finish fourth in the championship, where if you go to the 4 race thing, you just prevent something like that from happening.
We were talking about it today with Connor Zilich in the Xfinity. If this kid wins 12 races, then all of a sudden, loses in Phoenix.
That's what happened to me in the
Xfinity
deal. I won 9 races that year, and I finished fourth in the championship behind somebody that I think won one Talladega race. So, we didn't perform that night, but I don't know. That's the hard part, I think, is just when you have somebody that's had like a dominant season and then they go to Phoenix and, have a tire go down or something, and now they're fourth in the championship.
And we're going to let you go after this one, but as a guy who's already locked into the next round, so you're sort of playing with the casino's money, how are you doing going into Bristol? What can we expect to see from you? Will you be a good American and put Shane into the wall just to make sure that foreign invader doesn't make it into the round of 12? Like, what's the aggression level from Chase Briscoe going into Bristol, knowing that he still has a fresh set of downs in the next round?
I think that's the great thing of, about our position being locked in is, Bristol is one of those tracks. You cannot go there and be timid. You can't race timid. You have to be on kill, all 500 laps and just be super aggressive. And it's hard to run that race knowing that you have to finish or you just have to finish 10th or something because you can't put it all out there. So for us, it allows me to just go there and be super aggressive. Obviously, you don't want to crash, but if you crash or something, oh well, like you just go on to the next one. But for me, I think it's going to be a huge advantage just knowing I can go there, be aggressive, push all the way through, especially in lap traffic. Like you can just make so many more aggressive moves that other guys aren't going to have the option to do. So yeah, definitely the plan is to try to go there and, win the race. It'd be a cool one to win. It is the Bass Pro Shops night race. So, having Johnny there and all the Bass Pro Shops guests, if we could win that one, that would be one of the coolest ones I could imagine winning.
And what about the SVG thing? You gonna put them in the wall? Or?
I've done it once before for you.
Remember? We talked about it first
that time. So I guess I'm more American than everybody else.
Chase, listen, we really appreciate you spending time with us. You've always been extremely gracious with that. Now go out and win a championship, and we'll talk to you after Phoenix. All righty, brother?
Appreciate you guys.
Be good.
Thank you, Chase.
That's Chase Briscoe, driver of the 19, and a guy who's about to pay me plus 4,000. See you, Chase. Good one, my man.
Yeah, see you guys. Appreciate it.
All right, love hearing from Chase Briscoe. Obviously, one of our favorite drivers. So he's invited on. It's one of those open invites. Love to have him on weekly, be quite honest with you. Let's go to Bristol, Spider. Trucks didn't run last week, as I said. They ran last night, as I said. So I have nothing to say here because we don't know what the fuck happened. But Xfinity will have the Food City 300 on Friday night at 7:30. Stephen Parsons will be driving. Our guy Stephen Parsons, who arguably has the best hair in all of NASCAR. He'll be driving for Alpha Prime. Brendan Butterbean Queen will be getting his first Xfinity start, wheeling the 11 for Colleague, and you can catch it all on the CW. As I mentioned before, the CW is killing it with Xfinity this year, and they're going to continue to kill it right through the end of the season. Cup on Saturday night. It's a huge Saturday night. Canelo fight, Notre Dame game. A lot of shit going on this Saturday night. Among that is the Bass Pro Shop night race. It's race 3 of 10 in the playoffs. Starts at 7:30 p.m. Catch all the action on USA. 500-lap night race on just over a half-mile track to determine the 12 drivers who advance to the playoffs next round and the 4 drivers who will be bumped. Teams will race with a new, softer right side tire from Goodyear this weekend at Bristol, which hasn't had enough testing, so people don't know what the hell to expect. This could become a tire conservation race. We'll just have to wait and see. But either way, everyone's got to be head on a swivel because Austin Hill will be in the 33 for RCR, and then Corey Heim will be in the 67 for 2311. I checked the weather, Spider. Sunny with a high of 80 degrees, light and variable winds, and a 7% chance of rain. It's expected to be 70 degrees with a 1% chance of rain by the time the Cup race goes off. So there's a lot to watch this weekend, but tune into USA on Saturday night to watch the Bristol night race. You can catch the action on TV or feel the thrill in person. Secure your NASCAR seat today at NASCAR.com and feel the excitement. Nothing left to do now, Spider, but to pick some winners. So myself, Spider, Moonhead, I don't know what Quiggs was going to bet, and I really don't care. Let's pick the tires. Picking the tires is brought to you guys by DraftKings. Your season, your shot, the NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Every game is another chance to cash in. Don't just watch the action, win with it. DraftKings Sportsbook delivers the unmatched intensity of the NFL right to your fingertips, from first touchdown scorer to anytime TD props or the thrill of live in-game betting. Every snap is loaded with opportunity. New customers, this one is for you. Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly, plus score over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So your season's heating up. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code RUBBIN, RUBBIN. That's code RUBBIN to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet, plus over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket and from YouTube and YouTube TV in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Let's make some picks, boys. All right, so Spider, we need some picks. By the way, what was off camera for you guys is we were asking Briscoe what we should circle on the calendar for tracks that we haven't gone to. And he was like, if you guys haven't been to a Bristol night race, that's terrible. So it's one of those things, we're not going this year, but when we decide the schedule for next year, we already have a couple locked in. I think I'm going to insist on going to Bristol night race because it's one of those things that it should be bucket list for us. But going into the Bristol night race, I got a couple of picks. Spider, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm happy to go first, and my card is going to be just outright winners. I will give you some pick sixes on Twitter later in the week.
Yep.
But for now, I have two outright picks, starting with Denny Hamlin, who's he's plus 400. So he's not the favorite. It's Kyle Larson at plus 265. I like Denny Hamlin, the second favorite. In his last 5 races here, he has 2 wins, 4 top 5s. I think the way that the Toyotas have been running, I'm inclined to bet on them, which is why my second pick is going to be a guy we just spoke with, Chase Briscoe, 10-1. Those are my 2 picks, both outright winners. I love the momentum that both these cars have. They've been running really well. And then, like I said, I'll have some pick sixes as we get closer to race day. So make sure you're following on social. But that's what I got this week. I also kind of liked, what's his name? Chris Buescher for a top 10 plus 100. But outside of that, that's all I got for now.
Moonhead, have you seen anything that jumps out at you this week?
So I'm going to do a parlay of Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. all to finish top 10.
I love that.
Give that to me again. Slow that down. Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski, and
Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Wow.
Ricky's got a good history at Bristol. He's usually pretty strong there.
Okay. I'll take it. Fuck it. I'm only picking one winner, and I'm going with I'm a couple of picks, but one winner, and I'm going with Ryan Blaney. I had said how he's the luckiest guy who's sometimes gets these patches of bad luck. Last week was a perfect example. He managed to claw himself back into a top 10 finish. I think he gets into the winner's circle this weekend. So put me in there for plus 600. And then I also had mentioned Josh Berry and Alex Bowman. I don't think there's money to be made betting these guys to win necessarily, but I do think that they might have some heartbreak and get some top 3s. So I'm getting plus 900 for Josh Berry on a top 3 and plus 700 for Alex Bowman on a top 3. I also see on a top 10 that Tyler Reddick is even money, plus 100. So I might parlay a Tyler Reddick top 10 with a Canelo Alvarez win by decision over Terrence Crawford on Saturday night, just bringing some boxing into it. So the Canelo Alvarez, Tyler Reddick parlay, I got Josh Berry and Alex Bowman a top 3 and Ryan Blaney to win. And that's going to be it for us this week on Rubbin is Racing. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We especially appreciate Chase Briscoe carving out some time for us. Quiggs is back next week, but who really cares? On behalf of Moonhead, Spider, myself, and Jacob, thanks very much for tuning in. We'll see you next week on Rubbin is Racing.
Peace.